All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Spiral Podcast, episode number 6, and today we'll be talking about what circumstances will result in Ryan Day losing his job at Ohio State. And so for this podcast, we're going to do like a recap of what he's done as the Buckeyes head coach, and then we're going to talk about what circumstances will have to happen for him to lose his job. So for the his first season as a head coach, it was 2018, and he was the replacement head coach for Urban Meyer because of his suspension. And so how this overview will go is I'm just going to list a few good things and a few bad things about that season. And for this case, though, he didn't really have anything bad because he only had to coach 3 games, which were easiest games of the season. And he just really all he had to do was take over Ohio State and just have them win the first 3 games, which he easily did, and didn't really have anything bad. He just did what he had to do, but that doesn't really count. And then for his first season as the head coach, which was 2019 to 2020, he won the Big Ten, led Ohio State to the college football playoff, and also that means that he beat Michigan. And his defense was number 1 nationally, and in just total defense and passing defense, which was really good. And his bad was probably just that he lost to Clemson by 6, which, I mean, any playoff loss is pretty bad, so that's probably a bad thing about that season. But it was a really good season overall. And also, you have to note that he probably could have won if one of the worst calls, I would say, in college football playoff era took place in that game. Either way, that he lost and can't change history, so that's what his bad would be from that season. But really good season overall. And then I believe this was the COVID year, which was 2020 to 2021. So this is a hard season to judge based off him because they only played like 6 games. But I mean, they won them all, so technically they won the Big Ten. And then Ohio State beat Clemson in the playoffs this year and got their revenge, which I feel like is kind of what that season just felt like. It was the goal, just to beat Clemson after losing like 2 or 3 seasons in a row to them. So that was really good for them. And we didn't play Michigan that year, but if Ohio State did, they probably would have beat them. I don't think there's really any arguing that, but whatever. And then I would say the bad for that season, though, was that his defense was kind of bad. We played Alabama in the national championship, and just I don't know, our defense was just bad. We gave up like 40-some points, and if you want to win a natty, you can't do that. So that's what I would say the bad was. As you'll see, his defenses have kind of been a little shaky for his first few seasons, but they've been starting to get better. But anyways, that's what his bad was for that season. And then 2021 to 2022, that was C.J. Stroud's first season as a starting quarterback, and it was really good. He had the number 1 total offense and scoring offense in his 2021 to 22 season. And then we won the Rose Bowl against Utah, but obviously, as you can probably tell, one thing that didn't happen was beating Michigan, and that's mainly his bad. Really big loss to Michigan, especially if you're an Ohio State fan. After having so much success and winning, just to lose against Michigan, while it may have been inevitable, you never want it to happen. And the Buckeyes probably should have won that game also, and he didn't win. A lot of fans started questioning him, but not really yet. This is where his, I guess, decline kind of starts, as you'll see. But the defense was also not that good, which I think is kind of why Ohio State lost to Michigan. And then next season, which was 22 to 23, he made C.J. Stroud into one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. He had one of the best offenses yet again, and also Jackson Smith and Jigba wasn't even playing that season, and still had probably the best offense, if not like a top 3. But Ryan Day lost to Michigan again, and this is when fans really started questioning his abilities to win games. And then somehow Ohio State made it into the college football playoff that season, but after all the work that he did to try and prepare his guys, he couldn't get out the dub again, and they lost to Georgia in the playoffs. I think the coaching was definitely a factor of Ohio State losing that. They had a really big lead, and they probably should have won, but, like I said, it already happened, can't change it. So, yeah, pretty bad season again, especially after losing to Michigan twice. And then this last season that just happened, 23-24, we beat Notre Dame in a thriller at Notre Dame. Really good win for him. He still had an 11-1 record. He also did the previous season, but 11-1 is good. But when you lose to Michigan for a third straight year in a row, it's pretty bad. However, he did make Marvin Harrison into probably a top 2 draft pick, I would say. Draft isn't for another month or so, but he'll probably be top 3 pick, I would assume. He should be at least. And he actually made the defense pretty good. One of the top defenses in the country, I would say. Really good scoring defense, really good just overall defense. Like I said, for the bad, he lost to Michigan for a third straight year in a row, which really hurts if you're a Buckeye fan. And then he missed the college football playoffs, and also on top of that, we lost to Missouri in the postseason, which, if you're an Ohio State caliber team and you're losing to Missouri, that's pretty bad. No shade on Missouri, though. They are good, but I don't know. I know Ohio State didn't have the quarterback, so that's kind of bad. Can't really blame them for that, but, still, it's a loss to Missouri. It's not good. And then I just want to note this, so if you heard this and you're not an Ohio State fan, you would probably say, how is this guy in the hot seat? He's literally made it to the playoffs, at least half the times he's been the coach. Most teams would die to have a coach like this, and he's on a hot seat. And I'll say there's 4 big reasons why he is, and he's lost to Michigan, which is Ohio State's probably the biggest rivalry in college football, and it's 3 seasons in a row. So he hasn't beat them since 2019. Technically, it would be 2020 because we would have crapped on them, but 2019, really bad. He hasn't been able to turn all of the talent he's had into very much success, except for a couple Rose Bowl games and 1 or 2 playoff games, but really not much. And then his offensive calling was pretty shaky, I would say, most times, and he forced a lot of mistakes that probably shouldn't have happened, especially for offense. Just in general, though, he hasn't done amazing at offensive calling, and just managing his team has been a little shaky. And another reason why is Ohio State has probably the fiercest fan base of all time. Probably the most passionate fans you might ever meet. I would say most passionate fans, but definitely top 3. And when they lose to their arch rivals 3 years in a row, it's not good. And if you're not really caught up on Ohio State, it's not good if you're an Ohio State fan. And those fans are passionate. And also, after those fans just had Urban Meyer before he was a coach, who I don't even think lost Michigan. I can definitely see why he could be the fans would want him on the hot seat and possibly fired. So the question is, how does he get fired this upcoming season? And I just want to make a little note here. With all the talent that Ohio State has, returning players, new offensive coordinator, he's really good. Transfers, they have a ton of talent, and the expectations for this season are probably the highest they've ever been. And the big question upcoming is, can Ryan Day deliver? And I would say if Ryan Day loses to Michigan again, this is pretty obvious. If he loses to Michigan, he'll definitely be on the hot seat and maybe, possibly, most likely fired, I would say. I would say he could even lose to Penn State and Oregon, but if he beat Michigan and, I'd assume if they beat Michigan, they'd get I'd assume they'd make the playoffs. But I think he'd be better off losing to Penn State and Michigan and beating Penn State and Oregon. But if he beat Michigan, I would still say he would not be on the hot seat just because it's Michigan and he's lost 3 years in a row. I'll say if he makes it to the playoffs and does pretty bad, like loses first or second round, I'll say he'd possibly be fired. I wouldn't say that, like, I wouldn't say he would be fired, but, people still have a little doubt in him. But that would probably be assuming that he beat Michigan, so I wouldn't count on him getting fired, but, if that were to happen, I would say he'd be on the hot seat still. And then, I just think if he loses to Michigan, doesn't really do anything in the playoffs or just does bad in conference play, just in general, like not even if he loses to Michigan like and other teams, then he'll be on the hot seat and probably fired. If this is gonna sound kind of crazy, but I've been thinking like with all the talent they have and a pretty easy schedule, I would say. Not easy, but not like extremely hard. New playoff era. I would even go as far to say like, depending on how good Ohio State looks, I think they should like extremely good. So I think this is like a pretty good scenario. If they are like really good, I would even go as far to say as like, if he doesn't make it to the Natty and win it, man, I don't know. It's hard, but like, I actually think with the Ohio State fans, like, I think that they'll consider firing him. I mean, they have so many players that are talented and like physical, and we've been taking SEC players, so we're pretty much like a Big Ten SEC hybrid. And I don't know. I think if they don't win a national championship, it's going to be hard to defend Ryan Day. And I would agree with that. Like, I've heard a lot of people saying it, but I actually agree because the expectations at Ohio State, like I was talking about with the fan base earlier, they're so high, and you could say it's bad, but also them forcing him to have to work really hard, I believe is good. And I just think if he doesn't win a national championship, or I don't know, I think if he were to lose in the Natty, it'd be hard to defend him. Like, he's a great recruiter. He's a good coach, except for Michigan. So if he can get over Michigan, so here's the takeaways. If he can get over Michigan, number one, he has to get over Michigan. If he doesn't, probably fired. Has to make the playoffs, I would say. And he can probably do bad in them, but not get fired. But I'm not sure, man. I think it depends on how bad he does. Like, if we were to lose, like, second round by 3 points, not terrible. He'll probably won't get fired. And then the third scenario is if we make it to the national championship and lose, then it's going to be tough defending him. Because they're going to say, like, he hasn't won any big games, which is true. He's beaten Notre Dame, Penn State, and Michigan once, and Clemson. Those are really his only big wins, like, noticeable wins. And you can't do that if you're an Ohio State coach. You have to be able to win every single game in a season. And if you're not able to do that, then the chance of you being fired is high. And especially, Ryan Day, he's had 3 bad seasons, but he kept his job. And like I made a previous podcast where he's been cooking, by the way, you should check that out. He's like, he needs to cook. And I think he is cooking, but you can only cook so much by recruiting and hiring coaches. Like, you have to be able to execute it. And if he can't execute it, then he'll probably get fired because he won't be able to accomplish winning every game, which is kind of what it takes at Ohio State. So that's my takeaway from it. Let me know in the comments if you have any, if you agree with this, if you disagree, if you're neutral on it, just let me know. So thanks for watching. If you want to check out my other podcasts, just click my profile picture on YouTube. Go check them out on Spotify. Follow the podcast on Spotify as well. If you like this episode, drop a like, and see you in the next one. Bye.